You, actually. Any viewers in here? How come the chat didn't update? Some kind of fraud? Oh. There you go, dude. I U'd you. You've been U'd. Yeah. You're number one. Until somebody else starts chatting more often. I think. When is 3? Maybe. I don't know anything about that system. That's brand new to me. Also brand new is the Weapon Master class. Oh, he's so good at it. So, obviously the Weapon Master has been a concept for a very long time now. A couple months I've been thinking about this guy, this particular potential. And I feel like it's a pretty cool idea. Obviously, it's meant to basically be like the... I was originally thinking of it as a pitch to replace the fighter, but I feel like it's evolved into its own thing. Totally fine if people don't want to play as a fighter and instead want to play as a weapon master. That's fine. But you're the top fan, you're getting XP. Holy shit. I guess I should put a poll up, right? It's easy. Do you want... Would you play as a weapon master? The most useless poll of all time. It's the most useless poll. Perfect. But maybe that also gives you XP, I don't know. What I do know is that the Weapon Master is pretty cool. We are going to be... I actually wanted to briefly take a quick look at the description for, like... If I go to look at the fighter class, right? We go to info... Oh, okay. They have, like, they have a bunch of stuff related to the info about it, which I didn't know. Oh, interesting. Yeah, they go really in-depth with this stuff. For, like, style, who trained them. I don't know what a heraldic sign is. Battle for a cause. Oh, this is actually, wait, where is this stuff from, then? I guess this is probably the only stuff that was in the player's handbook. But this is, like, extra stuff you can use as supplementary ideas or whatever. Alright, whatever, that's fine. No, honestly, I have no idea. I have not a clue. I think I broke the website. Anyway, I wanted to take a look at, like, what the... I was trying to see if there's, like, a lot of flavor information about the martial classes. Yeah, it looks like there is a decent amount of flavor. So I was just kind of thinking about, like, stuff I might bring forth. But yeah, the Weapon Master is looking pretty good. I had Mr. Benson open to look at character stuff. Let's go ahead and start plugging it into Cindasaur. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start copying and pasting some of this information in. All right. And we're gonna work mostly on today. Today we're gonna work mostly on like I wrote all of this stuff out for the Oh, I see. I wrote most of this stuff out today. I didn't actually have an entry for Weapon Master in the homebrewery document here that we have. But I think, I mean, after writing all of this stuff out, I feel like we've gotten ourselves into a good spot. I'll explain some of the driving mechanics here in a moment. But we'll continue plugging this stuff in. Okay. So we have light armor or medium armor of your choosing. And then we have 2 one-handed martial weapons. You can do it. Yeah, you can make your Aeronask here if you want. It's not going to mess with my stuff. Hopefully I added everything that you need. And then we have Explorer's Pack and 3 simple weapons. This is where we go here and look for Explorer. Here. Oh, I see. Okay, so then we should do like this. And this would be choose weapon 3 simple. Yeah, that seems fine. I don't actually know if this dialogue ever gets used, though, so kind of weird. All right. Okay, so our hit points here, saving throws here are strength and dex. Skills, as mentioned, we can choose from acrobatics, athletics, history, investigation, sleight of hand, and survival. Oh, intimidation is also there now. Okay. All right, and then we have armor proficiencies, light and medium. Oh, there's 2 of them for some reason. Yeah, it's fine. And then here we have, let's see, class features. Oh, I probably forgot to add it to the race, so give me a second. I did add it, but it's probably not in the... Alright, it should be there now, but I don't know if you have to restart your... You might have to, like, cancel your race selection and then restart it or something. Sorry about that. Okay. So here we're going to go ahead and start plugging in the Weapon Master features. So this is Momentous Strikes. And then we have all of this. I know that what happens a lot of the time with the way that Foundry works is that it puts a chat card in the chat box, but it's not a simplified chat card with just the options. It's like the full thing. So, I mean, that's not really something I can control, so whatever, but it is definitely a bit silly. Class feature, it is level 1. There's no limited uses. Okay, so this is where we give you a couple of options. So Fresh Blood doesn't actually need an entry because it's not an active thing, and Bottomless Toolbox doesn't need an entry because it's just using an item and not caring that it's usually a bonus action in a Syndesaur combat. And then we have the only thing we actually need to do here is Swiping Strike, as it is a skill check, right? Or it's a save for them, but you roll a Sleight of Hand or Athletics. Actually, we don't even really need to do that, do we? Yeah. In theory, we actually don't need to worry about this because these are all things that you either just add as an extra bonus when you're rolling an attack, or it's you do the thing. Yeah, it's actually super easy thinking about it. There's, like, if you want to do Swiping Strike, you just use your Athletics or Sleight of Hand check. That you making that one of those skill checks is the choice. So we don't need to, like, re-implement that here. And they need a saving throw of Strength or Dex against your Athletics or Sleight of Hand check, so that's the DC right there. Yeah. I think that's pretty good. I also like the fact that you have the ability to choose whether you use a Strength or Dex-based skill. Strength and Dex are the pinnacle abilities scores of the Weapon Master. But The other thing that I think is pretty neat is you could be fighting an enemy that is clearly more lithe, but less, but also more scrawny or less meaty, and at the same time you could be fighting an enemy that's clearly pretty stocky but not very dexterous. And so you would choose what you want to do, even if like your strength is higher than your dex or whatever. As an average weapon master probably will be the case. You can still lean into your dexterity for other things. Or if you want to be a ranged weapon master, which is certainly a possibility, that would just mean that you would have like, you'd have a short bow and a long bow and a hand crossbow or whatever stuff like that. But I think it's pretty neat. Hey, what's up, 3Crow? I saw your after image and synchronized. I haven't actually read them, but I see that you posted them in there. Very cool, very cool. I figured you would have some interesting ideas, or at least you would have like impressions about the class, because I think you share the general sentiment that a lot of D&D, experienced D&D players share, which is that the martial-oriented classes are usually a little bit less interesting. And, you know, I'm trying to make it so that the this martial-oriented class leans more into martial things to get interesting results. So, anyway, hopefully people enjoy that. All right, we now need to browse Google Images for a good example of momentous strikes. I'll just see if I can find like a good image of like a duelist, or maybe a, like I needed like an action shot, you know? Hey, this guy looks like he could be a weapon master, right? Hold on. Should have done that a bit more intelligently. You know, we got, I mean, he's smashing an arrow with his sword, which I feel like is probably not. We can try to airbrush that out. But, you know, he's got a long bow or a short bow. I can't quite tell, depending on the proportions of the person. Got a dagger, a long sword, bows and stuff. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Martials end up being roleplay heavy since they often contribute little to the intrigue of magic heavy settings. Yeah, I feel like a Syndesaur is like magic heavy, but everybody has magic, right? Like that's actually, like, you are already magical if you're a level 1 character, so. But the martial classes are like left behind in terms of action economy a lot of the time. Or they're just absurd, like, I can do 4 attacks in 6 seconds. Well, that's definitely fucking magic, buddy. Yeah, Undercommon is fine. I might end up calling it something else later, but... I was also kind of thinking that maybe I would just have Terran, like the language of the earth, but I guess it's fine for that to be a different language entirely, right? It can be flavorful. Scozy. Anime attack sequence. Dude, the fucking snot rocket is next level, though. I like that there's a squirrel in the bottom of this picture. Master. And what is this called? This is momentous strikes. Oh, we should call it base strikes. I don't think I've ever heard of talking to rocks unless the rocks also were sentient. Like, you can talk to animals, but rocks aren't actually sapient, let alone sentient. I don't know how useful they would be. Sure. Although this guy's got a fucking revolver, so I gotta... We're just gonna go ahead and not include that. Tactical crop. Yeah. It's not... You could talk to elementals and stuff with like some of the elemental languages, right? It is admittedly something that's a little bit on the lesser used side. I think that's fair to say. All right, so in theory, we've got everything that we need for level 1. Let's go to feature. Say this is terminal velocity, what we called that one. That's a risky search, I guess. Apparently, I'm not the first one to come up with a weapon master class. Pretty good. That looks AI generated. This one works. Rocks was an interest. All right, so we're just about done with our writing in the stuff we've already written. So that's good. Take a look. Infestation and Thunderclap, I think. Pretty sure those are the two that you asked me to add. Okay, so we've got our first 2 levels kitted in already. Let's take a quick look. Attack roll, that's fine. We just keep track of that ourselves. The bonus action. So this is where I would just ask you to roll the damage of the weapon. That's fine. Oh, I guess we should instantiate a cap, right? to a maximum of 5 is what we'll say there. Okay. Easy clap. You're welcome. So I will just put this out there. I don't actually have like a solution to this right now, but this is something that I have been thinking about. And I guess I would just say it like this, right? So we have one thing that I've noticed about mystic classes compared to a lot of martial classes is that they tend to not include a large number of choices during level ups. Like usually you choose like a feature, or you know, you roll for your HP, right? That's pretty much it. Sure, yeah. You can replace the staff you got from your background with something more fitting. The trinket is supposed to be like the trophy from a kill that you've got. You can flavor that however you like. So choices when you level up, like Isundasaur gives you a lot of choices when you start, when you make your first character. Because you get choices that are based on your race. You get a choice of, like, there's more classes to choose from. Your backgrounds are also there, and I tend to work things in there with your history and like embedded into the world somehow. All that stuff is very good. But typically, with the classes that we've generated so far, the Blood Knight, now the Weapon Master, the Immortal and Gulam also fall into this. The Ironhead falls into this. You don't really make choices when you level up as much, especially compared to Mystic classes. That being said, there's a lot of cases where that's not the case for default classes in 5th edition, right? This is something I've observed with monks and with paladins and stuff like that. I feel like, generally speaking, when you're dealing with stuff like that, it is a situation where you got to think to yourself, okay, all right, I don't really get that much choice about what I'm getting as a level up, but it opens up more possibilities for me as a player to express myself in combat, in roleplay, that kind of stuff, right? So that part is fine. That's interesting and cool and all, and like we can certainly make that work. But I am thinking, are there ways to make it so that there are choices you can make when you level up? Okay, I'll put it to you guys this way. Let me see if I can find an example of this. Do we have any screenshots? Because Warlord's Battlecry, when you leveled up, your character had like a ton of things that you could get. So like there's stuff like this, which is like really basic, right? You've got ability scores basically. And they give you different attributes like mana or whatever. But there's other stuff in here. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'll find any good options or good screenshots of it. Yeah, I don't think I will. But there were things that you could get every time you leveled up, where it would be kind of like a feature, but way less potent in terms of power. Oh, this is profession, so this is like class-related stuff. But once you got past that, you could do more. I think it was like at level 1, you choose like I think you choose your race. Then at level 1, you have to get to your first level, and then you choose your class, and then you get like a subclass type thing, right? That was basically what I remember. And then after that, after you hit level 3 beyond, you're talking about a different setup there. I'm glad there's like a random sheet of stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, the only reason I'm saying all this or invoking this is because it had like a good, speciality was another case. But there's like other level ups that you can do. Level up screen. There's like a bunch of different things you can get. Yeah, skills. No, this is the same thing before. But you see down here in the bottom, there's like all of these other things that you can pick. Maybe we'll see some examples. Somebody played that game way too long. Get to level 369. Here, no. Yeah, I'm probably not going to find what I'm looking for here. I just have to, like, boot up the game. Anyway, the point is, you had a bunch of extra things you could pick that were a little bit lower impact, but it was still a choice you could make, and it was probably stuff that would mostly end up being flavorful. But the thought process behind me thinking about invoking that in this context is basically like, maybe we can develop some kind of system for each class that essentially reinforces a part of their flavor in a customized way. Yeah, I don't know. There were spells, passives, summons. Yeah, so there were those things in that game. But there's also stuff that was like... some of it was stuff that was related to the macro part of the game, obviously. So it was like lower cost of trade, or like lower cost of certain types of units or something like that. So, you know, it's like oddly specific stuff, right? But if you wanted to build your character out to be like a merchant or something, you could imagine a world where you're doing stuff like that and you're kind of speccing into stuff like that instead of... I think it was something literally like you could increase your just attack damage, or you could do stuff like what I just said, where you're like spending you could spend 1 point to increase attack damage, or you could spend 3 points to make it so that you get like cheaper options at a certain building or something. Like it was very widespread. It's like you get these tokens. It would be like if you could bank inspiration and spend it or something. I don't know how else to describe it. But like I would really, that's like a deep system that would need to be really well thought out and considered. But I like the idea of giving you a bunch of small but useful choices that you can make throughout leveling up as like an added flavor to your character. Again, I don't have a good solution for this right now. I don't have like a list of things I'm going to do about that right now. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where we're at. But that's just, those are just like my general thoughts, I guess you could say. Anyway, something to think about. What else do we want to give the Weapon Master at level 2? That's also what I want to think about. Like, it's all well and good that I give you, the Weapon Master, more techniques, where it's like, more specialized in the kind of weapon you're using. I deliberately, like, most polearm weapons are like either slashing or piercing. There might be a polearm that's a bludgeoning weapon. I guess that would just be like a quarterstaff, thinking about it. But polearms, reach weapons, that kind of stuff are sort of just kind of bucketed under here. But I do think there will be like a lancer or lanceman subclass or something, you know? I gotta think about like the subclass catch-all term. Like there's a lot of stuff that's like that, where you've got like the battle positions, which is your subclass basically, right? And then you've got legends for the immortal, and you've got, I forget what the Gulam was called, but we had it somewhere. I guess I didn't actually adopt it in here yet, but Gulam was like, I think it was like it was something of the moon was like one example. Anyway, there's stuff like that where oh, Bloodline. Yeah, that's what it was. And then of course the Blood Knight, ironically, is not Bloodline, it is Ancestral Sin. So anyway, those are like those kinds of terms, right? At level 3, you'll get access to that. Actually, don't remember how we wrote that in here. Oh, it's just... So let me think about if this is like a satisfying dissection of the weapons that you have access to. So we've got like... I might change that, but I think Symphony is like, so Weapon Master, and then like, that's not that far away from calling it Maestro, and Maestro is Maestro is like also a synonym, like another meaning of Maestro would be like, master of an orchestra or something, so. Symphony is like a musical term that I'm kind of thinking about poking into there, dipping into. Also, it's like, it's not like Way of the Blade. You know what I mean? A bit more subversive than that. But the problem is, like, Blade Symphony is whatever. Polearm Symphony doesn't sound as well, right? So we'll think about that later. So there's Blade, there's Polearm, there's Hammer, which would be like mace, club, etc. Blade is like short sword, long sword, etc. Great sword. Polearm is, you know, spear, pike, halberd. What's the... There's Morningstar, right? But there's also Flail, I think it's called. Flail weapon. Yeah. Oh, Flail might actually be a reach weapon, and I'm not sure. Shaft Symphony. I guess we can take a look. I'm sure Flail is a weapon. No, it looks like it's just 1d8 bludgeoning. So it's not reach. Okay. Good to know. So blade, hammer, polearm. There's also like... There's gonna be one that's like more roguish, but like dagger is not right because it also would account for arrow. It's basically piercing weapons, right? So we've got slashing, crushing, piercing, and then polearm is like reach, right? Even though there's like a disparity there. I don't know. So maybe it should be more like polearm, where it's like a class of weapon. Like one would be like for versatility. You'd have like any weapon that's versatile, any weapon that's reach, any weapon that's throwable would be like maybe a different one. I'm trying to think of like if that's also satisfying in all cases as a subclass, right? Because the point is that we're basically like a subclass that would be the most commonly used or commonly used. Maybe, okay, well maybe that's what we do. Because my worry about something like that is that people would just take whatever gives them like the one-handed weapon, because that's the thing that they most likely will encounter. They'll most likely encounter a short sword, a dagger, a mace, you know, an axe, something like that. That's like one-handed, right? That would be what they would most likely use. However, if we just omit the one-handed weapon from the subclass, then that just becomes an intrinsic part of all of the subclasses of like the core class experience. And then the subclass is like... The subclass becomes versatile, which is like longsword, etc. I can't remember what other weapons are versatile right now. Maybe Three Crow knows off the dome. Versatile weapons, D&D. Maybe we can find out. Is there a list of them? Martial melee is battle axe, longsword, trident, and warhammer. Well, trident is also reach, right? Oh no, it's I guess not. Maybe it is. Hold on. I don't. It's versatile, but it doesn't say reach, right? Spear is spear even reach? Javelin? Pike? Oh, pike is reach, but not a spear? That feels weird to me. But I guess most spears might be smaller. Whatever. Maybe there's a long spear item. Blood spear. Stygian spear. I feel like long spear is like a reasonable thing, right? But I guess it's just called something different. Is it just called a pike? If it's a long spear? Let's look that up. Difference between pike and spear. Okay, so I guess spears typically are shorter for the purposes of thrusting forward, whereas pikes are... Oh yeah, spears can be used with one hand, and I don't think you can do pikes with one hand, right? More weapons should have versatile? I kind of agree with that. I think by subclassing into the versatile subclass, you would be able to use more weapons versatilely. The main concern I guess you would have from a gameplay standpoint is, as I understand, versatile means you can use it one-handed or two-handed. And if you use it as a two-handed weapon, it's supposed to go from a D8 to a D10. And so if the weapon is already D10, it would have to be D12. I think that's actually fine. If the weapon is a D6, it should become a D8. If the weapon is a D4, it should become a D6, right? Like, just increase it by 2. And if I don't think I guess that just means that D12 weapons can't be versatile, can't be made versatile or treated as versatile because there's no D14. Although I will point out, you can go into chat here and you can just roll a D14. So that is a thing you can do. It's just not like a preset dice or whatever. We can do whatever, even though there's no 14-sided die or dice in most D&D sets, right? So whatever. To hell with physical constraints. We're on the internet. I'm a human being on the internet. D12 becomes 1d6 plus 1d8. I guess 2d6 increases the likelihood that you would hit a middle roll. Yeah. Well, I don't think it's more consistent max damage, though, right? Or is it? I guess probability-wise, the D12 is pretty broad. So we've got versatile, we've got polearm, which is actually just going to be reach. So not spear then. Pike, halberd, quarterstaff. I assume a halberd is reach. Halberd. And then is a glaive reach? It is. Okay. Quarterstaff. The quarterstaff. Quarterstaff is not. Half staff, though. A half staff will surely be reach. All right, we got those two. What other weapon categories are there that are kind of on the specialer side? Because I don't really want there to be a subclass that's specifically about using ranged combat. I would want there to be, but I guess like, one thing I kind of like the idea of, and I feel like it's not really commonly seen, probably because it's not... In most cases, it wouldn't actually be a believable choice for combat or whatever. But there should probably be some kind of one-handed crossbow. Like, the hand crossbow could actually be a one-handed weapon. And by that, I mean, like, I know you technically can fire it, but you can't reload it with one hand. I don't think. Anyway, the point is, imagine a world where you can use like a hand crossbow and a sword or a shield. That's just funny to me. Anyway, that's something to think about. But yeah, because like these subclasses are all about weapons. So like the line of logic there was maybe there should be a versatile ranged weapon, but that would mean that you can use the crossbow either two-handed or one-handed, and I guess two-handed would be an accuracy increase probably instead of a damage increase. Anyway, the idea that I have with the subclasses was so that, like, I didn't want the Weapon Master to be pigeonholed into melee only. So maybe what would happen is that the domain specializations that you have here as a subclass would have a distinct extra, like, they would have their own unique buffs to ranged combat as well, so that you're still supporting that, but I don't have to worry about, like, well, there's no reach ranged weapon because they're fucking ranged. You know, stuff like that, right? So there would be versatile, reach, I guess two-handed would be another one. Great axe, great sword. And then, I don't know what others would exist. I know Shambler was looking for a cavalry type subclass. The problem with that, I think, is I think that actually just needs to be flavor, like how he builds his character, how he flavors his character. And he'd probably then lean into the reach subclass because that would be like most likely what you use in mounted combat. Or though he can do whatever. Like, I think you can make any of them work. But the reason I say that is because I don't think that you can have the versatile two-handed reach. I don't think you can actually have one that's cavalry, because the whole idea is that you're moving through combat very frequently. So, like, mounted combat could probably be like a feature that he just decides to take irrespective of his class. And that's kind of where I'm talking about that more grounded. I really wish I could have found for you guys the thought process that I had, the reference that I had. Oh my god, I just realized the chat was busted with that poll this whole time on the stream. I don't understand how, though. Does it need to be refreshed? No, it's just bugged. I ended the poll. Okay, there we go. Great. Great javelin, great spear, strength-based thrown weapons with the heavy property. What is heavy? Is heavy two-handed? Oh, smaller tiny have disadvantage. Heavy weapon size and bulk make it too large for them. Throwing the hyena. Yeah, true. Javelin, yeah. What was it? It was pointy hyena or sharp hyena, something like that. There was a point where my brother's character in the D and Dad, back when it was D and Dad instead of D and Dadless, was his character was throwing hyenas in the middle of a combat at one point, and then he found like javelins that you actually throw for real, and he's like, pointy hyenas, and I named them Pointy Hyena in his inventory, and he was impressed. Yeah, I wish I had actually found that level up idea that I had, because basically there would be stuff that you could get, like, hyper-specific bonuses. I think what I'll probably end up doing, actually, is just kind of asking people to pitch, like, some kind of avenue they want to go down where there's gameplay improvements or, like, combat improvements or whatever. Like, it could be something as specific for, like, the brother's character case, the Ironhead case, as, like, when throwing people, range increased by 5 feet, or damage increased by whatever, you know, like, stuff like that. Like, you know, when throwing creatures that are my size or smaller, increase range or something like that, right? Like, I think that's fine. Like, that could be just a generic, I leveled up to level 2 or level 3, and I get to pick, like, every time you level up, you can just pitch me a gameplay improvement or something. You can pitch it to me ahead of time for the level that you got, and I'll tell you if, like, that maybe gives me more time to think about it or whatever. But I think stuff like that would give people, like, they would really feel like they're choosing stuff, right? I think that's super sick. Yeah, you were talking about that thing related to Kyle, if I remember correctly. You wanted to, like, forego something you were gonna get, or, like, you were gonna take a feature and then you wanted to customize it or something. Sort of like that, but that's probably a bit more major than a lot of the bonuses that you would get at these, like, in these otherwise related stuff. Oh shoot, it's Godwheat! What's up, dude? So, yeah, basically, I feel like if you can, no matter what your class and race and everything else about your character is, if you can just be like, based on the current setup, I would like this kind of improvement, or this, I would like to improve this aspect of my character to make it more in line with what my vision for the character is. And it doesn't have to be something that's already in the game or system or whatever, homebrew or otherwise. The point is, like, you pitch it to me and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. So I think we'll probably adopt that going forward. Yeah, that was just because of level 4. Because it's like a whole ass feature you're supposed to get access to when you go there. One thing that kind of still bothers me about 5th edition, and I think this is probably true in a bunch of other versions of D&D as well, is that I don't think that the actual number of your ability score is used for anything. If it's odd, I don't think Benson gets anything for his wisdom being 11 instead of it being 10. Besides the fact that if he wanted to increase his wisdom modifier, he could do so by using his ASI on this. But if he had all even skill points, then his ASI increase would be useless because it would only be +1. He would need to wait for another ASI after that. I say ASI increase. That's kind of silly. But you guys know what I mean. Like, basically, this number on the bottom is kind of useless, and it really only matters whether you're increasing the number at the top, but you can only do that every other time. I just feel like that's so weird. Like, why did they do that? Why did they make it that way? Because do you even use it? I guess you could probably say you use it for a tiebreaker. Like, if 2 people with a wisdom mod of 3 had a dueling check and they rolled the same result, then one of them has, like, what would that even be, 16? And one of them has 17? And the guy who has 17 wins the like, that's such a very specific use case, right? Yeah, well, like I was saying earlier, when we were talking about capping towards 6 or whatever, is that I think there will be ways to improve your ability scores without relying on a level up at all. That could be like cosmic power. That could be training. I guess it would probably have to be some kind of magical infusion, no matter what. Because having anything above like an 11 or 12 maybe, or 13 or something like that, I think is supposed to be like superhuman already, if you're at like 14 plus. So, anyway, maybe the alternative would be to simply say increase a skill by 2, and then you could guarantee, like when you hit level 4, you are literally increasing a modifier by 1. Like, because again, the modifier is the actual, that's the actual score that matters, not the ability score that you have. Like when you have When you have a 10 in wisdom or whatever, what you really have is a 0 in wisdom bonuses. That's what you have. Whether you have 10 or 11 is irrelevant. It's you like that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like it's just weird game design. I don't understand it. Yeah, I was funny you say that, Godwee. I was thinking about a class. Like there is definitely a class that I'm thinking about that's like a I was throwing around the term like conduit or something like that anyway, catalyst. Where they are channeling magical energies in a more like mentalist psionics sort of way. Oh, okay. It's used to limit multi-class. I feel like you could probably do that still without needing the big number that doesn't mean anything. Big number that only means anything every second one. Yeah, dude. That's why you take Vicious Mockery as a so that when you're doing combat, you can try to burn somebody. And then, you know, if you burn them really, really good, I might like stealth add more damage to it or something. Yeah, for me, multi-classing is still like a super black box, and I kind of have like a general aversion to it because it seems like it's... My only experience... I've told you this before, Truco. My only experience with multi-classing has been people like deliberately using it to build a fucking tweaked out character that's ridiculously powerful, right? Stand-up comedian bard? Roaster. Got a roaster in it. But yeah, like the catalyst would be using magic to influence the people around them, ally and enemy, more so than using their own form for it. So you could get some really interesting characterization out of that. Like they can use a weapon if they want to, but it probably isn't like their predominant way of making things happen. That was my idea anyway. I haven't codified the class though. Now, Alexander is also someone who prefers roleplay to combat. Out of curiosity, what is your usual stumbling block with combat compared to roleplay? Is it more so just like an observed reality, like a lot of the best moments are through roleplay instead of combat? Because I'm kind of agreeing with that, but I feel like combat can be really exciting and roleplay flavorful if done right. It's just maybe that's like the lower percentage of combat. I'm always curious about people's experience. Like, I don't have a lot of experience with tabletop stuff. I'm always curious what people's experiences are. Shit, that's wild. Sure, yeah. No, I feel like there's a manner in which combat is the crescendo that the roleplay builds towards, but can also kind of drag out and overstay its welcome. And I'm trying to, obviously a lot of that is down to encounter design and whether people are paying attention, but Right. Yeah. Or like combat is like a necessary step in the drama of the, or the pathos of the adventure, is like, here's the first act of the adventure and it's, you know, the introduction to the enemy and, you know, stuff like that. Paying attention. Honestly, I was talking to my brother about this earlier, the other day, actually. I feel like the donor campaign with having 3 people, unless somebody else donates $33 a month, wink, or no, it's just $30 actually, $30 a month, wink, on the coffee page, is the donor campaign that meets once every other week is going to be way different because we're going to 3 people instead of 6. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure. That definitely has already happened, too. Eh. Are you referencing useless nonsense combat? I feel like, I feel like even combat that on its face doesn't end up feeling very impactful, when role-played well, can actually be really good. By which I mean, like, if you somehow stumble into a combat encounter that feels like, wow, this is kind of weird. Why are we fighting these people? Like, what's even going on? I feel like something went off the rails. If your character also feels that way, you can bring that up. Like, what the fuck? How did we get here? What are we doing? We gotta focus. You know, that could be like a whole, you know, dialogue encounter. Yeah. I think there's a couple of areas, there's a couple of areas that I'm hoping to have targeted improvement about my DM narration in. One of them is, I usually flavor a missed attack from a party member, or even from a, I flavor a missed attack from either side. Usually, like, interestingly, but I do sometimes say, before I even flavor it, oh, you miss, or, like, something like that, which then kind of cuts short, because then I'm like, I go into, like, a more slightly longer description of how you slash with your sword, but it's parried, or it's blocked by the shield or the armor, or whatever. Like, I give you that, so that there's still, like, an actual thing going on. But if I start with you miss, it kind of takes the tension out of whatever the fuck I say next. So I do try to, I'm going to try to get better at that. The other thing that I definitely need to do a little bit better of is I'm kind of, like, leaning on the audio visuals of what I prepare at the digital maps and the encounter maps or whatever. Instead of, like, specifically saying, you walk into this room, it looks like this and smells like that. You notice this immediately. Which is what you would do if you had to rely a little bit more on theater of mind. You'd engage the senses with the narration a bit more. I don't typically do that, and I think that also will include stuff that is related to combat, like your enemies. I don't really describe them in more sensory details a lot of the time, and I'm just kind of like yeah, look at their token, dude. It kind of tells you everything, but it doesn't really tell you everything. So those are areas that I need to improve a little bit. When the player gets to chime in on the interaction, enemy whiffs you by 1 and you shield. Yeah, I should probably lean into that a little bit more too, huh, 3Crow? Like, if I'm if I'm basically like, if we're role playing out a combat scenario, and I think this is a lot easier with a lower party count, by the way. This is another reason why I think the donor campaign will be pretty interesting. I feel like there's a situation where you can imagine I'm like, the orc grabs hold of his war club and begins to beat it against your shield over and over again. And then I start to roll, I roll the actual attack and it doesn't hit. I was like, tell me how you protect yourself against this attack. And that's like your clue that, oh, I'm actually not dead, or I didn't take damage. I'm defending, right? And then like the player can step in there, right? Something like that, right? You know? Setting the stage using all the senses is pretty strong. Yeah, it certainly can be. Monk used full MMA terminology. Yeah. Armbar, fucking triangle. Get him. Hook him up. The axe kick. Well, thank you, sir. I've only been doing it since August of last year, so not even a full year. It was like late August I started. We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of my DMing next month. But I will say, I definitely like I guess just the way that I do things is really, I'm trying to think of like a right word to describe it. It's not really like personality. That's not like the right word for it, but I guess that's part of it. The same thing that made me make Cosmonarchy, and I didn't do it alone, but the same thing that I started it. Without me, it would never have existed. The same thing that made me make Cosmonarchy also made me make a Syndesaur, insofar as I'm modding D&D while playing it, and that's what I did with StarCraft. I modded StarCraft until it turned into Cosmonarchy, right? And so, like, I just don't do the out-of-the-box shit, apparently. Even though it would have been way more easy to do. It would have been so much easier to, like, grab other people's maps and use other people's adventures and not bother making all these custom classes and stuff. It also would have been way less satisfying, actually. So I feel like I probably could have maybe zeroed in a little bit more on these, like, DM-related improvements I could make if I wasn't also doing all the homebrew shit at the same time. But I'm trying to, like, refocus a little bit on that, because if I'm dropping the ball in the DMing space, which I don't know that I have been, but there have been a couple of cases where I know that I could have done a better job. If I'm dropping the ball in that case, it kind of doesn't matter what I'm homebrewing, because the experience is still not as epic as it could be. So. Volumes of documents. Yeah, this is all gameplay related stuff, because it's like redoing the... It's less about the world and more about the... I mean, the mechanics of the world are still part of the world. Like, I was talking earlier about how to be a level 1 character, you have to be somewhat magical infused, even if you don't express that with mystical or spiritual manners, but instead express that through martial manners. You're still, like, as a barbarian, or in this case a weapon master, you're still channeling some kind of intrinsic magic that you have, some life force that you have. So that's still, like, that's part of the world, but I'm presenting it in a much more mechanical and game mechanic, oriented stuff. Yeah, this is like you could think of this as like there's some things that are add-ons to 5e or whatever, but this is more like I'm replacing stuff in 5e. Like, there are changes to the rules. I should probably drop this is pinned in the Homebrew Avenue, but I can drop the link here in case you ever feel like looking at it later. But we've got all this stuff for, like, the changes. There's stuff like I overhauled grappling, for example. Added all this stuff for damage types. Like, it's very crunchy. There's a lot of rules going around for combat to try to make combat a little bit more deep. And we don't remember them all the time, because there's no way I can integrate them into Foundry. Yeah, so monks got a change in later on in a Syndesaur. You can scroll down to find that. Monks got to change to make it so that they can use dexterity for grappling instead of athletics. Or instead of strength. They can use their dex mod for it, basically. Yeah, yeah. Like, they're only partially restrained, right? So they can still attack you back a little bit, but you can also fully restrain them, and then it's like a typical grapple. It's just making a little bit more choice there, if you wanted it. Alright, versatile, two-handed, reach. I don't actually know if there's anything else that immediately comes to mind. But we're going to add more than 3 subclasses, of course. But these are just like the ideas we have. What are we going to call the subclasses? I was thinking about symphonies. Until next time, sir. Thanks for hanging out. And thanks for threeing me twice. This man threed me on Cosmonarchy's coffee page and on a Syndosaurus coffee page. And that is epic. Actually, I just had an idea. What are you doing, dog? You just opened my door, dog. Brother, you have opened my door. What is a good, cool, epic, arcane focus? Question is, what does the Shadowfell give me? Eyes glow green from that dark vision shit? Well, maybe you double dip on the Outlander thing. So your Outlander, like, trophy from an animal, like, was brought with you, but it obviously is like a corpse item or a bone or whatever, and so it's a cadaver of some kind, and so it was infused. I don't know, that's an idea. I apparently have to take my dog out, so I will be right back. All right, lads, I'm back. Trying to think about what creatures would frequently show up in what creatures would normally show up in a underwater area. Damn, fire snake is pretty good. Can't really use jellies or oozes. Basically, Cullen, I would go on to the bestiary, and I would look at CR1 or below, probably CR1 half for a level 1 creature, level 1 character, I mean. And I would look for stuff that would potentially work out that way. Yeah, those are pretty powerful as like a normal stat block, right? Oh, this is it for sure. Or it could be it. Take a look at that creature. I would probably come up with a better name than Piercer if I was pushed to. But apparently it's like a stalactite normally. So to trophy that thing would be like a representation of your keen senses. You know what I mean? Yeah. Gee, I wonder what it does. Fucking phenomenal. I went to references, bestiary, and then I just clicked CR. You can click it twice to sort by lowest. And then I scrolled down until I was at 1/2. One half is a pretty big challenge for, like, the average level 1 character to take on solo, I think. So I think that would still be a pretty good one. And, you know, that's an approximation. You might find stuff at 1/4 that's potentially easy. That's supposed to be easier, but is actually harder. And then you might have stuff that's supposed to be harder, but is actually easier or whatever. Filters? I don't have any filter. Maybe you do a reset. In the top middle. That's probably a cookies thing. Oh, shopkeeper died. You. Nice. Yeah, so. What are you up? Yeah, they would probably have natural. They'd probably have natural, like, rivalry or tension with, like, spider folk, you know? Aronasks and spiders. Hey, Cullen, do you remember playing Halo Wars? Or maybe it was Halo Wars 2? Maybe it was both? And hearing that announcer guy have to say, harmonious digestion researched. What a fucking upgrade name. Yeah. That would make sense. It would give the Aronasks more research. I forget what the peon was even. Oh, that's like that was a different upgrade name, yeah. Just peon research. Yeah, I feel like Aronasks would have a They would like that more. Yeah. Harmonious peons. That is Mike. Mind-bending bite. That's funny. Deathhead is the mercenary reaper in StarCraft 2. So that's what I thought of. But Mike is a good replacement thought for that. If thoughts were a simple filing cabinet, I would replace Deathhead with Mike. Unfortunately, thoughts are a little bit more complicated than that. It's invisible. I see. Interesting. One enormous false hydra. I'll keep that tab open. That might give me some ideas. So I like the harmonious motion feature. When you attack or are attacked, you can spend your reaction to move in any direction with no attack of opportunity invoked. And it also doesn't spend movement, so it's like 5 free movement. But also, if you use this as a reaction to being attacked, you can generate 1 momentum on the ball right there. So you're generating 1 momentum no matter what, as long as your attack is with an epic, fresh weapon. There we go. Finally, something I can use. Okay. Mace as a baseball bat. You grab hold of it with both hands and swing for the fences, dude. All right, so we got a bit more progress on the Weapon Master. We figured out like what the martial symphonies are going to be. At least some of them. We got a little bit of a plan down there. Yeah, very cool. So I have to get going to pick up some food pretty soon. So we're going to end the stream in a couple minutes here. However, I do think that this is pretty solid for getting us into the campaign, the donor campaign. It looks like I've already implemented the Immortal in some way. All of the level 2 features, anyway, are in. So that should cover us for the first few sessions. You guys know I like to slow burn into level 2 anyway. So, yeah, I wasn't even sure if we had already done the Immortal data entry, if you will. So I wasn't entirely convinced that we had done that. But actually, it looks like we have. So, with the Weapon Master also done for level 2, and everything for my brother's chosen sorcerer-related stuff implemented, I think we're all set. Because I also did the volcanic... if we go to... rates, go to races, or no, classes, no, features, racial features, Grommy. There's the origin magma, yeah. So, this one's in here as a choice. I actually don't remember if I keyed it into the Gagrami. Geologic origin. Yeah, I did. So it's all set. yeah, I think that means that we just need to do character creation for that campaign, and then we are good to go. One thing that is kind of annoying about making a new game, right? If I go to, well, I don't know if my brother's done customizing his character, but if we make a new like game, I am gonna have to reconfigure the custom languages, but I think that might be the only thing I have to do. Oh, okay, you're done. Yeah, you disconnect. So if we were to go back, yeah. Oh, I guess I should do that. I just remember us talking about it and me thinking like, yeah, it's probably fine, but I should take a look, right? We were to jump into traits. So let's go to the Gagrami entry, and then let's go to the Gagrami Magma. So what was the proficient in athletics? Ah, yes, because Earthen Grasp was a default. So I guess what we should do here is we should say you are an expert in athletics. Or I guess it would be in expertise, or you have expertise in athletics. I think that's fine. Like, I think it's sort of like when you're designing an RTS unit, you don't really want it to be too middle of the road. You kind of want it to be pointy, like on a triangle graph where it's like defensibility, or I guess it would be like survivability, power, utility. If that's like those three things are the triangle graph, you kind of want to lean towards one of them being weaker than the others, one of them being stronger than the others, and one of being in the middle of the road. And you can occasionally have stuff that plays around. That's kind of an all-rounder. You can have stuff that's like really good in 2, but really weak in a 3rd or something. Glass cannon with utility, like a vulture or something. I don't know. There's like stuff like that you can imagine in Cosmonarchy RTS for comparison. It's kind of like that. I think you want the elements that you've got going to have pointy areas on a triangle graph where they're really good, because it leaves open the ability for them to be really good at a thing where it makes sense. So I've gone ahead and modified that. I don't know if I need to reset it in here. Go to Magma. No, it's linked still. Sometimes they don't link. So there you go. I have officially decreed it so, even though that was basically what we all expected. So, I think I'd have to do create world, and then, yeah, I'll do this kind of setup stuff later. I guess I'll keep loading into the Paladin partner for now in case people want to make their stuff. Then I'll throw those into the compendium and link that compendium to the new area and all that, and we'll just roll with that, I think. So. All right, very cool. You make a successful attack with this weapon, a tangible phantom of it apparates in your free hand. Oh. Excuse me. Ah, each afterimage counts as a fresh weapon. Interesting. When you make an attack roll with this weapon, you add your current momentum to the total rolled. Ah, okay. I dig it. Yeah, this could be, I could see a world where you can apply those kinds of techniques to the weapons that you specialize in for your subclass. But maybe each subclass gets unique ones or something. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. But those are cool things for sure. Hell yeah, brother. All right. So I think that'll do it. I got to get walking. GG's. It's going to be a very fun time playing around with some of this new class stuff. Look forward to seeing you guys for that. My brother said to start next week. We'll talk about it in the donor chat, but definitely let me know what you guys think about when to start. As it is, I have no idea what we're doing this weekend. Alexander is gone. And he's going to be, like, around. He has to be around for the next session. So, it would be a convenient time to do the donor campaign this weekend. The problem is I don't actually know people's availabilities and whether, like, that would mean that Lucy and Balethal have to not be a part of the session this weekend. And I don't know if they're down for that, you know what I mean? But I also don't really have anything else for them to do. So, like, we can't realistically be Sans Alexander for either Ascension to Sazerain or the Paladin partner. So I don't really know what to do about that one. But, anyway, we will figure that out later. GG's. I will catch you guys later. Peace.